3 minutes before the score inquiry system opened, Liang Su hung up on me. To be precise, it wasn't that he didn't answer. The call went through. I could hear a girl crying on his end. Her voice intermittent, like paper soaked in rain, fragile, ready to fall apart at the slightest touch. Liang Su's voice was low and gentle. Don't cry, Su man. Even if you really didn't do well on the exam, it's not the end of the world. I'll go with you to check out the repeat school. And I'll help you look into the supplementary admissions. There will always be a way. I held my phone, my fingertips growing cold little by little. On the computer screen, the score-checking page was still stuck at the CAPTCHA input box. I had originally wanted to ask him. The system is about to open. Are you ready? We had clearly agreed that on the day of the college entrance exam results, no matter whether the outcome was good or bad, we would check them together, but I didn't even have time to say a single word. On the other end, Liang Su seemed to finally realize the call had connected. He paused. The next second, he lowered his voice and said to me, Xinghe, go ahead and look it up yourself first. Su Man's side is really more urgent. Then the call was hung up. The moment the phone screen went dark, the time in the bottom right corner of the computer jumped to exactly 10:00 p.m. The score inquiry system was opened. I stared at the screen, suddenly forgetting what I was supposed to type. The room was very quiet. So quiet that I could hear my parents whispering in the living room, the faint hum of the air conditioner vent, and the thumping of my own heart growing heavier with each beat. Liang Su and I have been deskmates since first grade. Over the years, we have faced all kinds of exams, big and small, together, in elementary school. When checking final exam results, he was more nervous than I was. Crouching beside my computer desk, he kept muttering, Xinghe will definitely be first. Xinghe will definitely be first. During the first monthly exam in middle school, I messed up in math. He bought 2 grilled sausages, shoved one into my hand, and said, at worst, I'll help you make up for it next time. On the day the results of the 3rd mock exam in senior year came out, I was too nervous to open the scores. He directly dragged his chair over to me, blocking half the screen, and said, you look at the left side. I'll look at the right. If we're going down together. He laughed for a long time afterward, because I did well on that exam. He said, checking scores, that's something we should do together. How scary it would be to look alone. But now, for this truly most important time, he let me check it myself first, because Su Man's side was more urgent. I don't know how long I sat there, until Mom knocked on the door from outside, her voice cautious. Xinghe, is the system on? I snapped back to reality, my fingers stiffly typing in the exam registration number, the last 6 digits of my ID, and the verification code. As I clicked search, I instinctively turned my head to glance at my phone. The screen was silent. No call or message from Liang Su. The page loaded for a long time. I heard my own breathing growing softer. The next second, the results appeared. I was stunned. 23 points higher than my estimated score. My total score was high enough to get into that prestigious university in another province that I had never dared to dream of before. I stared at that string of numbers for a long time. I should have been happy. Really, this score was enough to let my parents breathe a huge sigh of relief. Enough to make my homeroom teacher, Mr. Chen Ziyuan, slap the table and say, I knew you had it in the bag. And enough to lift my head from the conservative plan of going to the local A university and look toward farther, better places. But my first instinct was still to take a screenshot and send it to Liang Su. I opened the chat box with him. The last message was from 6 in the evening. Liang Su, nervous. Me, nervous. Liang Su, don't be afraid. I'll check with you tonight. I stared at the line, I'll check with you, my fingertip hovering over the send button, hesitating to press it. Half a minute later, Liang Su sent a message. It's not about asking if I checked, nor is it about asking how I did on the exam. He said, Su Man is crying too hard, and her parents are scolding her again. I'll stay with her for a while. Have you finished checking? Talk about it later. Talk about it later. I stared at those 3 words and suddenly felt a sense of unfamiliarity. So this was my college entrance exam score, the result I had been nervous about for an entire month. The score-checking night he and I had planned for so long. To him, it was something that could be talked about later. Mom finally couldn't help but push the door open and come in. "Xinghe, did you find out?" I instinctively turned my phone face down on the table and looked up at her with a smile. "I found out." My voice sounds calmer than I expected. Dad follows me in, still clutching an unopened bottle of water, looking even more nervous than I am. "How much?" I turned the computer screen toward him. Mom was stunned at first, then covered her mouth, her eyes instantly reddening. Dad leaned in and read it twice, as if unsure, even taking off his glasses to wipe them before putting them back on. This is much higher than you estimated." After saying that, he turned and walked toward the living room. "I'll call old Chen." "No, wait. It's too late. Should I text your homeroom teacher?" "That won't work either. He's definitely busy replying to students." Mom lifted me up from the chair. I knew our Xinghe could do it. She smelled faintly of laundry detergent, her palms warm. The moment she hugged me, I belatedly felt a sting in my eyes. It wasn't because of the grades. It was because such good news had almost made me think I had no one to share it with. Mom quickly let go of me, wiped the corner of her eye, and said with a smile, "Where's Xiaoxiu? Weren't you two supposed to investigate together? Did he find anything?" I lowered my eyes. The phone screen lit up with a notification. "Liang Su. She's emotionally unstable, so I might be back a bit late tonight. Liang Su, your grades should be okay, right?" "It should be fine." I turned my phone over so Mom couldn't see it. "He's got something to do." Mom didn't think much of it and even said with a smile, "Then hurry up and tell him. Haven't you two always been the first to share every achievement with each other since you were kids?" "Yes, since I was a child. Liang Su has almost always been the first person to see my report cards. He was also the first to know which university I wanted to attend. Out of province. Linjiang University. Intelligent medical engineering. It was during the summer vacation of my sophomore year of high school that I stumbled upon this major in the admissions brochure. That day, I excitedly showed the web page to Liang Su. He only glanced at it and said, "Isn't it too far? Besides, this major sounds exhausting. Why would you, a girl, go that far?" I smiled at the time and said, "But it's really impressive." Liang Su leaned back on the sofa in my house and took the tablet from my hand. "Local University A is also great. Our scores are pretty similar. So we can apply to University A together and still come home for meals on weekends." He said it so naturally that I also began to feel as if this was indeed the best arrangement. Later, I bookmarked the web page of Linjiang University into a folder, with a very casual note. If I set aside Liang Su, this was the best choice. But after that, I never clicked on it again. Mom and Dad were very happy, chatting in the living room about whether to order a cake. Then quickly muting the family group chat to avoid the chaos of relatives asking questions. I sat in front of the computer and took a screenshot of the grades page to save. After saving, I opened the chat box again. Liang Su's profile picture was still from the first day of high school, when I secretly took a photo of his back. The sunlight was beautiful that afternoon. He stood under the teaching building with his backpack on, turning back to call me to hurry up. I secretly took that photo and later showed it to him. He smiled and said, "Nice shot. I'll use this as my profile picture from now on." And that picture stayed for 3 years. I once thought that if some things never changed, they would remain the same. It turns out not. It's just not time to change yet. In the end, I didn't send the screenshot of my grades to Liang Su. I only replied to him with one sentence. "Checked." After 5 minutes, he replied, "How much?" I stared at the screen, typing slowly. "Not bad. This time." He replied quickly. "See, I told you. You've always been steady, so don't hold tonight against me." Su Man is really about to break down. I looked at the words "you've always been steady," and something inside me felt a subtle sting. So being too steady can also become a reason not to be chosen. Because I'm steady, I can look things up on my own. Because I'm steady, I don't need anyone to keep me company. Because I am steady, he can rest assured and go take care of others first. I didn't reply anymore. That night, I went to bed very late. When I closed my eyes, Liang Su's voice before hanging up the phone kept replaying in my mind. Not panic, not perfunctory. It is gentleness. When he spoke to Su Man, he was truly gentle. The next morning, Liang Su called me. When my phone rang, I was checking the admission rankings of various universities over the past 3 years with my mom. Mom had listed out the local University A, neighboring provinces University B, and Linjiang University, with the paper densely filled with major group codes and ranking intervals. I saw Liang Su's name, and my finger paused for a moment. Mom looked over. Xiao Su. I nodded and walked to the balcony to answer the call. Xinghe. Liang Su's voice sounded a bit hoarse, as if he hadn't slept well all night. In the past, when I heard him like this, I would immediately ask if he had a cold, whether he had eaten breakfast, and what time he went to bed last night. This time, I just hummed in response. Are you angry? He asked. I looked down at the sun-bleached concrete road below. No. He let out a sigh of relief. I knew you weren't the unreasonable type. Last night, Su Man was in really bad shape. She kept crying, saying her life was over. Her parents didn't care. They just kept scolding her. I was afraid she might do something desperate, so I couldn't look after you. I didn't say anything. Liang Su continued to explain. And you've always been steady, with much better mental fortitude than her. See, didn't you do pretty well on the exam? My hand slowly tightened. Liang Su. You haven't asked me what I scored yet. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Liang Su seemed to just then realize. Right. What did you score? Suddenly. I didn't want to say it anymore. If a word of concern only comes when I have to remind you, then it's already meaningless. Aren't we having dinner together tonight? I said. We'll see when the time comes. Liang Su didn't seem to notice anything. Just let out a laugh. Fine. My parents want to ask too. By the way, don't give me a cold shoulder at dinner tonight. Me, Mom, and the others will be there. I'll explain the Su Man thing to you slowly. Don't overthink it. Overthink it. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I just said. Got it. Before hanging up, he added one more sentence. Xinghe. You're the most sensible one. I stood on the balcony, listening to the busy tone on the phone, and suddenly felt that those 4 words were harder to hear than any reproach. Sensible. Over the years, it seems everyone has taken it for granted that I should be sensible. Liang Su forgot to bring me a birthday gift because he was too busy with his competition. I understand. So it's okay. Liang Su cancelled our trip to the bookstore at the last minute because his classmates asked him to play basketball. I understand. So it's okay. Liang Su lent out the error notebook I spent all night organizing and lost 2 pages. Because we're all classmates. I understand. So it's okay. Now, on the night of score release, Liang Su is accompanying another girl first. Because I'm sensible. It should be fine. Mom poked her head out from the dining room. Xinghe, your homeroom teacher just replied. He said, with this score of yours, you can seriously consider Linjiang University. I was momentarily stunned. Mom walked over with her phone. The screen showing a voice-to-text message from teacher Chen Ziyuan. Xinghe's ranking is even better than I expected. Don't limit yourself to just the local University A right from the start. The flagship programs at Linjiang University are worth a shot. I'll take a closer look at the program tiers this afternoon. I stared at that line of text, and my heart suddenly beat a little faster. Linjiang University, the name I had tucked away in a folder, only to close the page time and again because of Liang Su. Mom observed my expression and asked softly. Is this the school you've always wanted to go to? I instinctively denied it. No. I just knew about it before. Mom didn't call me out on it. She just said. Eat first. There's still time to decide on your college application. No rush. There was no rush. But it felt like something inside me had quietly begun to shift. At 6 in the evening, the two families booked a private room at the private kitchen restaurant they used to frequent. This meal was originally meant to be a score-checking dinner. The two families had agreed on the day the college entrance exam ended that no matter how Liang-Su and I performed, we would have a meal together. When I arrived, Uncle Liang and Aunt Liang were already there. As soon as Auntie Liang saw me, she smiled and pulled me to sit down. Our Xinghe really grows more beautiful and more accomplished by the day. Xiao Su just told me you did well on the exam. And I knew it. Xinghe has never needed anyone to worry about her since she was little. I smiled. Thank you, Auntie. Auntie Liang glanced toward the door again. Xiao Su said there's a traffic jam on the road. He'll be here soon. Traffic jam. I lowered my head and looked at my phone. Half an hour ago, Su Man posted on Moments. No text, just a photo. In the photo, there is a plastic bag from a pharmacy, with half of a boy's wrist visible beside it. I recognized that black digital watch. I gave it to Liang-Su for his birthday in his sophomore year of high school. Someone in the comments asked, "Who went to buy medicine with you?" Su Man replied, "A very important person." I stared at the phrase "a very important person" for a few seconds, then turned off my phone. The dishes were served one after another. Liang-Su still hadn't arrived. Dad glanced at the time, his expression already turning sour. Mom gently touched the back of my hand under the table. I knew she was afraid I would feel embarrassed. But at that moment I was unusually calm instead. Perhaps when people are truly hurt to a certain extent, they suddenly become numb. At 7:10, the private room door finally swung open. Liang-Su stood at the entrance, his bangs damp with sweat, still holding the pharmacy bag I had just seen in his Moments. He looked at me first. A flicker of guilt flashed in his eyes. But soon, he raised a smile and walked in as if nothing had happened. "Sorry. Something came up on the way. I'm late." Auntie Liang chided, "What's more important than today's meal? Xinghe did so well on the exam. And you didn't even think to come earlier." Liang-Su pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. The familiar scent of mint mixed with the smell of a pharmacy plastic bag drifted over. He lowered his voice and said to me, "Su Man had a stomachache. So I went with her to buy some medicine on the way." After saying that, as if afraid I might misunderstand, he added, "You should understand, right?" I looked at the watch on his wrist, the one I had given him. The second hand moves forward, tick by tick. 21 hours have passed since the score inquiry system opened. During these 21 hours, he stayed with Su Man as she cried, went with her to buy milk, and accompanied her to get medicine. Yet, even now, he still doesn't know how many points I actually scored. Uncle Liang raised his teacup and smoothed things over with a smile. All right, it's good that Xiao Su came. Today is mainly to celebrate Xinghe's good exam results." "Xinghe, what exactly was your score? Tell your uncle and aunt quickly." Everyone in the private room turned their eyes to me. Liang-Su also looked at me, as if he finally remembered. He really hadn't asked clearly about this matter. I put down my chopsticks and was about to speak when Liang-Su's phone suddenly lit up. The screen was lying on the table. I didn't mean to look. When Su Man's message popped up, the words were too clear. "Liang-Su, I still feel terrible. Can you not spend too long eating with Wan Xinghe right now? I really only have you left." Liang-Su almost immediately flipped his phone over. But it was already too late. "I see. My parents saw it too." The private room fell so silent that only the sound of the air conditioner running could be heard. Liang-Su turned his phone over so quickly it almost seemed like a guilty conscience. Too slow. Slow enough for everyone to clearly see the 3 sentences Su Man had sent. My dad was originally holding a teacup, its rim already touching his lips. At that moment, he froze, his face gradually darkening. My mom glanced at Liang Su, then at me. Without saying a word, she simply pushed the fish she had just placed in my bowl a little closer to me. Aunt Liang was the first to react. She forced a smile and said, "Young girls these days. Their moods swing so easily. Xiao Su, did your classmate not do well on the exam? You can't keep looking after her like this, she has her own parents." Liang Su's Adam's apple moved slightly. Her parents aren't very good at comforting people. After saying this, he seemed to realize that the words were inappropriate at the moment. So he added, "She checked her scores yesterday and didn't do well, so she was really upset. I'm just helping out as a classmate." Between classmates, I looked down at the fish in my bowl. The bones had already been carefully picked out by my mother. In the past, Liang Su used to do this kind of thing too. When our two families had meals together, he would naturally turn the dishes far from me to my side, peel the shrimp and put them in my bowl, then feign impatience under the amused gazes of the elders. She's been lazy since she was little, and she even finds eating shrimp too much trouble. Back then, I felt embarrassed, yet I couldn't help but feel happy. I thought that was something special. Later, I realized that something special, once he is willing to give it to others, is no longer special. Liang Su looked at me. His voice lowered softly. "Xinghe, don't misunderstand." I looked up at him. What did I misunderstand? He seemed stumped by my question, momentarily at a loss for words. "Su Man and I aren't in the kind of relationship you're thinking of." What kind was I thinking of? Liang Su's brow furrowed slightly. Since I was a child, whenever I didn't go along with what he said, he would make this expression, as if puzzled, or as if blaming me for suddenly becoming hard to appease. Uncle Liang cleared his throat, breaking the silence between us. "Let's eat first. Today is for celebrating Xinghe. Don't let outsiders ruin the mood." Outsiders. Liang Su's fingers moved slightly under the table. I noticed. He didn't like others talking about Su Man like that, but when he hung up on me last night, he never considered whether I might dislike it too. Uncle Liang started smiling again and asked me, "Xinghe, what was the score exactly? You didn't finish telling me just now." Everyone's attention finally turned back to me. I announced my score. The private room fell silent for a moment. This time, it was a different kind of silence. Aunt Liang was the first to exclaim in surprise. "This high?" My dad finally showed a hint of a smile, unable to hide the pride in his voice. More than 20 points higher than her estimated score. Her homeroom teacher said she could even seriously consider Linjiang University. When the words Linjiang University were spoken, Liang Su suddenly looked at me. His surprise was even more evident than Aunt Liang's. As if he realized for the first time that my grades were not just the not bad he casually mentioned, nor were they the play it safe he had so offhandedly judged. But it was enough to let me walk far away from him. I didn't look at him, just slowly took a sip of water. The water was a bit cold. It chilled me all the way from my throat to my stomach, which only made me more clear-headed. Liang Su quickly spoke up. "Linjiang is too far away." The smile on my father's face faded a little. "It is a bit far, but the school and the major are indeed good." Liang Su put down his chopsticks, his tone serious. "Uncle, I'm not saying the school is bad, but Xinghe has never left home since she was little. Linjiang is 8 or 9 hours away by high-speed rail from here. She's a girl going there, unfamiliar with everything. What if she can't adapt?" He spoke as if he were genuinely considering my well-being. If this had been before yesterday, I probably would have been touched. Liang Su was like that. He rarely said anything harsh. He always had a set of seemingly reasonable explanations. When I was a child and wanted to go to the children's palace to learn painting, he said it was too far from home and too tiring on weekends, so it would be better to go with him to the math Olympiad class. In junior high school, I wanted to join a summer camp at another school. He said it would be full of strangers and unsafe, and that I might as well stay home and study. The first time I mentioned Linjiang University in my sophomore year of high school, he said the major was too demanding, the city too far away, and that it wasn't suitable for me. Every time, he spoke as if it were for my own good, and every time, I believed him. My mom asked him. Xiao Su, have you looked into which majors Xinghe can get into with this ranking? Liang Su paused. I haven't had a chance to look into it carefully yet. My mother's tone remained gentle. Then it's not too late to decide after seeing it. After all, it's Xinghe's own choice. Liang Su smiled. Auntie, of course I know it's Xinghe's own choice. I'm just worried she might act on impulse. With her personality, she seems steady on the surface, but sometimes she can be easily drawn in by flashy brochures. Linjiang University is good. But local University A isn't bad either. If she stays local, it'll be more convenient for both our families to look out for each other. Our two families. It's convenient to look after each other. When he said this, his tone was too natural. So natural that it felt as if my future was always meant to be included within the radius of his life. I put down my water cup. Liang Su. He looked at me. Do you know what major I want to study? Liang Su was taken aback. Intelligent. Something. Medical engineering. Intelligent medical engineering. I corrected him. He nodded. Right. There are similar programs for this major locally. There's no need to go to Linjiang. I asked. Does local University A have this major? Liang Su frowned. The name of the major might be different, but the direction should be similar. I suddenly found it a bit amusing. He wasn't even sure if I had a major. Yet he could so confidently tell me that there was no need to go to Linjiang. I used to think he understood me. Now I realize. He was just accustomed to making conclusions on my behalf. Auntie Liang, sensing the awkward atmosphere, quickly stepped in to ease the tension. Xiao Su is just worried about you. Xinghe, don't overthink it. You two grew up together, so he's bound to care about you more than others. I nodded. I know. Liang Su's expression softened a bit. I continued. So he should check my grades, rankings, and major first before worrying. Liang Su's smile froze on his face. The private room fell silent again. My dad lowered his head to drink tea, but the corners of his mouth clearly pressed upward. My mom picked up a piece of spare rib and placed it in my bowl, her voice calm. Eat first. The food is getting cold. The second half of the meal was eaten in silence. Liang Su's phone lit up twice more. He didn't look at it in front of everyone again. Only took the phone under the table and replied quickly. I don't know what he replied. I don't want to know either. Near the end of the dinner, the waiter brought a small bowl of longevity noodles. This is a custom of this restaurant. To celebrate academic advancement, they always serve a bowl of noodles, symbolizing smooth success. In the past, at times like this, Liang Su would always push the bowl over to me first. But today, his phone vibrated again. He glanced down at it, and his brow immediately furrowed. I look at him. He pressed his lips together, as if hesitating for a moment. Then he said, Dad, Mom, Uncle, Auntie, I might have to leave first. Auntie Liang's expression changed. What now? Liang Su picked up the jacket from the back of the chair. Su Man just said her stomach hurts badly, and no one's home. I'll go check on her. I'll be back soon. After saying this, he instinctively looked at me. Xinghe, you. I interrupted him. Go ahead. Liang Su was stunned. He probably didn't expect me to be so calm. The explanation he had prepared suddenly became useless, and he could only nod stiffly. Take your time eating. I'll message you later. I didn't respond. As he reached the door, the waiter happened to place the bowl of longevity noodles on the table. Steam rose gently from the white porcelain bowl, the noodles resting in the clear broth, topped with a perfectly round fried egg. Liang Su's steps paused for a moment, but only for a moment. Soon, the private room door was closed. The steam slowly dissipated. My mom pushed the bowl of noodles in front of me. Xinghe, take a bite. I picked up the chopsticks. The noodles were very hot. I lowered my head and took a small bite, my eyes stinging from the heat. This time, I didn't hold back, nor did I cry out loud. I just ate, bite by bite, the bowl of noodles that was supposed to be a celebration. On the way home, neither of my parents mentioned Liang Su. The streetlights outside the car window receded one by one. I leaned back in the back seat, watching my phone screen light up and then dim again. Liang Su didn't send me a message. Instead, Su Man posted another update on her moments. There is text this time. I'm sorry for ruining someone's celebration, but I really can't hold on anymore. And thank you for always being willing to pull me back every time I'm about to fall. The accompanying image is a chair in the hospital emergency room. At the edge of the photo, half of Liang Su's hand is visible. He is holding a payment slip in his hand. Someone in the comments asked. Liang Su went again. Su Man Hui. He said I can't be alone right now. Someone else joked. Won't Wan Xinghe get angry? Su Man replied a few minutes later. I don't want it to be like this either. If she minds, I'll keep my distance from him from now on. I looked at that sentence and suddenly let out a small laugh. How graceful. It seems like I'm the one who's in the wrong. If I mind, it means I'm not generous enough. If I don't mind, she can continue to accept Liang Su's care with a clear conscience. Mom turned around from the passenger seat to look at me. What's wrong? I turned off my phone. Nothing. Dad let out a cold snort. Stay away from that Liang kid from now on. Mom gently nudged his arm, signaling him not to be too harsh. I nodded instead. All right. After that single word was spoken, the car became even quieter than before. My parents both seemed somewhat surprised. It wasn't that they had never tried to persuade me before. In the second half of my senior year, I often stayed up late to help Liang Su organize his mistake notes. My mom felt sorry for me, saying I barely had time to review for myself. So how could I still be looking after others? Back then, I was always making excuses for Liang Su. He said he hadn't been in good shape lately. He said that reading my notes made it easier for him to understand. He said that in the future, we should aim for the same university. And that it's only right for us to help each other now. So my parents didn't have much to say about it. Perhaps they also thought that Liang Su and I would eventually end up together. A person who has been by your side since childhood is too easily mistaken by others as fate. But fate LDN't be like this. It shouldn't be me waiting all along. Always giving in. Always been sensible. After returning home, Mom went to wash the fruit, and Dad sat on the sofa flipping through the admissions guide. I went back to my room and turned on the computer. Last night's score-checking page had automatically logged out. I stared at the blank browser, hesitated for a moment, then still clicked open the bookmarks. The folder I had placed at the very bottom was still there. Its name was Backup Options. I opened it. Linjiang University official website. Intelligent Medical Engineering Program Introduction. Admission scores for the past 3 years. Career prospects. Academic competition projects. Dormitory environment. City map. Neat rows of links lie quietly inside, like a future I've hidden away for a long time. There's also a document at the very top. The file name was casually changed by me during the summer vacation of my sophomore year of high school. If we don't consider Liang Su. I stared at those 6 words for a long time. Then I clicked to open it. The document's last edit time was set during the summer vacation of sophomore year of high school. It contained all the information I had found at the time. The course offerings at Linjiang University, the direction of the labs, the team of supervisors, the city's climate, the cost of living budget, and even the fastest high-speed rail route from home to the school. I had looked up everything. The last line was a note I had written to myself back then. If I really can get in, I must go and see it. I suddenly felt a bit dazed. It turns out I didn't just want to go far away today. I had simply locked away that wish long ago. For Liang Su's sake. A knock sounded at the door. Mom came in with a plate of fruit. She set the plate down by my desk, glanced at the computer screen, and paused for a moment. You used to look things up this thoroughly. I felt a bit embarrassed. Just browsing. Mom didn't call me out. She pulled over a chair and sat down beside me, speaking softly. Xinghe. Mom wants to ask you a question. If you don't consider anyone else, only yourself, where do you want to go? I stared at the 4 characters Linjiang University on the screen, my throat feeling as if something were blocking it. It took me a long moment before I finally said, Lin Jiang. The voice was soft, but it was so clear that even I was startled. Mom smiled. It wasn't a smile of surprise. It was a smile like she had finally waited for me to tell the truth. Then take a good look. My nose tingled. But it's far away. Distance isn't the issue. Mom said, whether you want to go is what truly matters. After she finished speaking, she added another sentence. Your dad was checking things in the living room for a long time just now. He didn't say anything. But he actually circled the ranking tables of Linjiang University for the past 3 years. I was stunned. From outside the door came the sound of my dad deliberately clearing his throat. I'm just browsing. Mom couldn't help but laugh. I laughed along with her. But as I laughed, my eyes grew warm. There really are people who ask me where I want to go first, instead of immediately telling me where isn't suitable. That night, I reorganized all the materials for Linjiang University, and put the materials for the local A university into a separate folder. The folder is named Safe Plan. It looks very rational, but I know that something has already changed. The next morning, the homeroom teacher, Chen Ziyuan, sent a message in the class group, asking high-scoring students to come to school in the afternoon for preliminary college application consultation. When I arrived at the classroom, many of my classmates were already there. After the college entrance exam, the classroom had a strange kind of emptiness. Almost all the books on the desks had been taken away, leaving only a few boxes of unwanted test papers piled in the corner. The chalk words counting down to the last day of the exam were still on the blackboard. Someone nearby added another sentence. Finally free. As soon as I sat down, I heard someone behind me whisper. I heard Su Man cried all night, and Liang Su went to the hospital with her. Really? What about Wan Xinghe? Didn't she do well in the exam? Why would someone who did well need company? True. Su Man seems to have really messed up this time. I heard even the undergraduate admission line is at risk for her. Those voices were not loud, but it was enough for me to hear. I opened my notebook without looking back. Why would someone who did well on the exam need company? So it wasn't just Liang Su who thought that way. In their eyes, even pain seems to be distributed according to grades. Those who fail the exam are entitled to break down. Those who do well are expected to be dignified, calm, and understanding. As I was thinking this, Liang Su came in through the back door. The moment he saw me, he paused mid-step, then walked toward me. The classroom grew a little quieter. Everyone was subtly watching us. Liang Su pulled out the chair next to me and sat down. Why aren't you replying to my messages? I only then took out my phone and glanced at it. At 1 in the morning, he had sent me a message. Liang Su, just got back from the hospital. Too tired. At 8 in the morning, another message was sent. Liang Su, still angry. 9:30. Liang Su, let's go to school together this afternoon. I'll pick you up on the way. I didn't reply to any of them. I wasn't ignoring him on purpose. I really didn't see it. Liang Su clearly didn't believe it. He lowered his voice. Xinghe, I explained everything last night. Su Man's situation is special, so don't keep harping on it. I flipped my phone face down on the desk. I'm not harping on it. Liang Su frowned. Then why did you suddenly become so cold? I look at him. Liang Su, do you remember how many points I scored last night? He was taken aback. I continued to ask. Do you know what my rank is? His brows furrowed even deeper. Do you have to be like this? I had so many things to deal with yesterday. It's perfectly normal that I didn't remember at the time. I nodded. Perfectly normal. I spoke too calmly, which instead left him stunned. Just then, Teacher Chen Ziyuan came out of the office, stood at the podium, and called out a few names. Wan Xinghe, Liang Su, Zhao Jia, you three come over first. I stood up. Liang Su also stood up. When we reached the office door, he suddenly tugged at me. If the teacher asks about your preferences later, don't just say Linjiang right away. I stop. Why? Liang Su glanced at the busy teacher inside the office and lowered his voice even more. First, focus on the local A university. Schools like Linjiang are worth a shot. But the risk is high too. Don't let the teachers think you're too aggressive. Have you looked at the data? I've glanced through it. I looked at him silently. He seemed a bit uneasy under my gaze. Don't keep looking at me like that. Didn't you used to trust me the most? Yes. I used to trust him the most. So when he said Linjiang was too far, I stopped bringing it up. When he said that the local University A was also very good, I made University A my first choice. He said we would still be in the same city in the future. And I genuinely believed that city would hold our future. But now, I suddenly want to ask one question. In all these years I trusted him. Did he ever truly think about me? In the office, Teacher Chen Ziyuan looked up and saw us. Xinghe, come in. I withdrew my hand and walked inside. Liang Su followed behind. Teacher Chen spread several printed forms out on the table. Regarding your ranking, I double-checked it again last night. Linjiang University's Intelligent Medical Engineering program is a viable option to aim for, if you want to play it safe. Jiangbei Medical University in the neighboring province is also a good choice. Local University A isn't out of the question. But in terms of score utilization, putting it first would be a bit of a waste. Liang Su immediately chimed in. Teacher, isn't Linjiang too far? And she's a girl. Teacher Chen looked up at him. When filling out college applications, look at scores, rankings, majors, and personal preferences, not gender. Liang Su's words got stuck. I looked down at the form. Behind Linjiang University, Teacher Chen had marked a word in red pen. Charge. That stroke was very heavy. It felt as if it had also circled a place in my heart that I had never dared to touch. Teacher Chen asked me, Wan Xinghe, what do you think yourself? I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Liang Su looked at me first. His gaze was familiar, with a reminder, and also a hint of certainty. He seemed convinced that as long as he was around, I wouldn't say anything that would embarrass him. I slowly tightened my grip on the pen in my hand. Teacher, I heard myself say, I want to seriously consider Linjiang University. The office fell silent for a moment. Teacher Chen Ziyuan didn't look surprised. He just nodded and pushed the Linjiang University form toward me. All right, with your score, you have the right to seriously consider it. The right. When those two words landed, my heart felt as if it were gently lifted. From last night until now, the words I've heard the most are, too far, unsafe, unnecessary. Play it safe. Only Teacher Chen told me that I am qualified. Liang Su stood beside me, but his expression wasn't very good. Teacher, even when aiming for a school, we have to consider the practical situation. Xinghe's family is local, and her parents might not feel at ease letting her go that far alone. Teacher Chen lifted his eyelids to look at him. Liang Su, I'll go over your application form with you privately later. The words were very polite. The meaning was also quite clear. Now we're talking about Wan Xinghe's college application preferences. Liang Su pressed his lips together and said nothing more. Teacher Chen spread out several forms one by one. Linjiang University's ranking hasn't fluctuated much in recent years, and the enrollment plan for intelligent medical engineering has slightly increased this year, which presents an opportunity for you. A safe option would be Jiangbei Medical University, and as a fallback, you can consider the local A University and Nanjing Institute of Technology. The order of majors needs to be further refined. You can't just rely on the school's name. I took out my pen and wrote down each item one by one. Liang Su stood nearby, wanting to interject several times, but held back in the end. Back when we used to ask the teacher questions together, he always spoke before I did. He spoke quickly, and his train of thought was just as fast. Sometimes, before I even figure out how to ask, he has already asked the question for me. When the teacher explains, he also lowers his head and marks the key points on my draft paper. Back then, I thought it was nice. Someone understood my hesitation and was willing to say the words I left unfinished. Now I realize that after having others speak for you for too long, you really do forget that you have a voice of your own. After finishing his talk about Linjiang University, Professor Chen asked again, Are you interested in the intersection of medical engineering? Or do you simply want to study computer science? Just as I was about to answer, Liang Su spoke up again. She's average at computer science basics. And medicine is pretty exhausting too. She's actually more suited for Liang Su. I cut him off. He froze. I looked at Teacher Chen, trying to keep my voice steady. I want to pursue biomedical engineering. In my sophomore year, I came across a project at Linjiang University that used algorithms to assist in image screening. I found it really interesting at the time, and later I looked into related courses. Teacher Chen's eyes lit up. You've also looked into the courses? I nodded. I have. I've read a bit about the introductions to basic medicine, signal processing, machine learning, and medical imaging. I know it's not an easy major. But I'm not applying just because the name sounds nice. Teacher Chen smiled. Then you should consider it more seriously. After saying this, he looked at Liang Su. Did you hear that? She's not acting on impulse. Liang Su's expression grew even more rigid. I lowered my head and continued taking notes. The pen tip glided across the paper, rustling softly. The sound was faint, yet it strangely calmed me. After the consultation, Teacher Chen asked me to go back and organize a draft of my college application preferences and send it to him in the evening. I packed up my materials and had just stepped out of the office when Liang Su followed me. There were quite a few students in the hallway, all holding their score slips and application forms, gathered in small groups to discuss. Liang Su lowered his voice. What did you mean just now? I stopped in my tracks. What do you mean by that? You contradicted me right in front of the teacher. He frowned, a hint of disbelief in his tone. I looked at him and suddenly found it absurd. So when I expressed my own thoughts, he saw it as contradicting him. I'm just talking about my aspirations. But you never used to be like this. Liang Su stared at me. Before, when we discussed things, you would always listen to me. Xinghe, are you deliberately going against me because of Su Man? Su Man. Su Man again. It seems that as long as she's brought up, all my normal choices can be explained away as jealousy, pettiness, or immaturity. I asked Liang Su. If it weren't for Su Man, would you support me in applying to Linjiang? He fell silent. The answer was already clear. I nodded. So this has nothing to do with Su Man. Liang Su ran his hand through his hair in frustration. How is it not related? You've been off since last night. Xinghe, I admit I didn't look after you last night. And that was my fault. But you can't gamble with your own future just because of that. Liang Su. I clutched the documents in my hands tighter. My future is not something for me to spite you with. After saying this, Liang Su was momentarily stunned. Someone at the other end of the corridor called his name. Liang Su, Teacher Chen wants you to come over. He glanced at me, as if there was still much to say. In the end, he only left one sentence. Don't fill anything out yet. Wait for me, since childhood. He has said these two words countless times. Wait for me to go home together. Wait for me to eat together. Wait for me to check the scores together. Wait for me to fill out the college application together. I really used to wait. After school, I stood at the school gate waiting for him to finish playing ball. On weekends, I sat in the bookstore waiting for him to wake up. On the night of score checking, I held my phone waiting for him to come back. But after all that waiting, it seems I only ended up waiting for him to turn around and go to someone else. I didn't answer, carrying the materials. I turned and went downstairs. When I reached the entrance of the teaching building, the sunlight was a bit dazzling. I was about to call my mom when my phone vibrated first. It was a message from a classmate I rarely keep in touch with. Zhao Jia. Xinghe, are you okay? I was stunned for a moment. Zhao Jia and I are just ordinary classmates. She usually gets along well with Su Man. I replied. What's wrong? Zhao Jia quickly sent a screenshot. It was Su Man's moments. This time, she posted a screenshot of an electronic spreadsheet. The title was Repeating Supplementary Admission Psychological Counseling Organization. Below is a dense list of school names, addresses, contact information, fee ranges, and target audiences. The caption is: some say that failing an exam isn't the end of the world. I will work hard to start over. And thank you to those who helped me organize this. The comments section is filled with words of comfort. Someone says, man, keep going. You deserve better. Someone said, this watch is so detailed. Did Liang Su organize it? Su Man replied, no, he sent it to me. Another person asked, he's so good to you. Su Man replied with a cat covering its face emoji. I stared at that form, and in an instant, my blood ran cold, because it wasn't Liang Su who had organized it. It was me. After the college entrance exam ended, a few classmates in the class weren't satisfied with their estimated scores. And people in the group chat kept asking about repeat schools and supplementary admission policies. I looked up the information at that time and also sent it to Liang Su. It wasn't for Su Man. It was because Liang Su said a friend of his might find it useful and asked me to take a look. I didn't think much of it back then. I was even worried that the information wasn't accurate enough. So I checked several official websites of institutions and past policy announcements. Organizing everything until 1 in the morning. Liang Su even sent me a sticker that day. As expected of our Xinghe. Reliable. Now, that reliable information has become a vague and ambiguous part of Su Man's moments. She didn't say it was Liang Su who did it, but she also didn't say it wasn't something between her and Liang Su. She only said, he sent it to me. So everyone assumed that Liang Su had specially found the materials for her. Zhao Jia sent another message. I remember this table format looks a bit like the ones you usually make. So I thought I'd ask. I held my phone. Standing on the steps in front of the teaching building. The sun was making me dizzy, but I couldn't feel any warmth at all. After a while, I replied to her. I organized it. Zhao Jia was silent for a few seconds. Then why didn't she make it clear? I didn't reply anymore. Because the answer was simple. She didn't need to explain. After all, I'm the one who's occupied. After all, Liang Su would explain for her. After all, I've always been steady, understanding, and not one to fuss. I opened Liang Su's chat box and sent that screenshot over. Did you give her this form? Liang Su didn't reply for a long time. It wasn't until I got on the bus home that my phone buzzed. Liang Su. She was in a bad state last night. I was afraid she'd get stuck in a dead end. So I forwarded the materials you compiled to her for reference. I stared at the phrase the materials you compiled. At least this time. He acknowledged they were mine. I asked. Did you ask me before forwarding them to her? Liang Su. Do you even need to ask? Liang Su. Aren't you organizing this for those who need to see it? Liang Su. Su Man needs it more than anyone right now. I stared at the screen and suddenly felt like laughing. Can't even laugh. I typed slowly. Liang Su. Just because I organize the materials doesn't mean you can casually give them away to others as favors. This time, he replied quickly. Liang Su. Do you have to put it so harshly? Liang Su. What do you mean by doing a favor? I was just helping her out. Liang Su. Xinghe. Since when did you become so petty? Petty. On the night of the score inquiry, I watched him accompany Su Man to check her results. Last night, I saw him again, going with her to buy medicine and to the hospital. Maybe I'm overthinking. Today, I asked him why he transferred my files without permission. Maybe I'm being petty. If I don't stay silent, will I become the unreasonable one? The bus came to a sudden stop. My body swayed forward, and the documents in my hand nearly fell to the ground. The auntie beside me reached out and steadied me. Little girl, stand firm. I thanked her softly. The street view outside the window recedes. I have walked this road with Liang Su many times. After evening self-study in senior year, he would ride his bike to take me home. The wind was strong in winter. I sat on the back seat, my fingers numb from the cold. He would take off his scarf and toss it to me, saying, "Don't freeze yourself, silly, I'll still need you to organize my files later." Back then, I would laugh and bury my face in the scarf, feeling that even his way of ordering me around was like a kind of intimacy. Now that I think about it, It only feels ironic. Some words, from the very beginning, should never have been taken as a joke. After returning home, I didn't immediately tell my parents. I locked myself in my room and turned on the computer. The materials for Linjiang University that I organized yesterday are still on the desktop. Next to it is the original file of the retake materials that Su Man posted on her Moments. I opened it and looked at the creation time in the top right corner. The third day after the college entrance exam ended. At 1:27 a.m. The document contains notes I manually annotated. Some schools are suitable for students with weak foundations. Some institutions have too many advertisements and need on-site verification. Psychological counseling hotlines must have their qualifications confirmed. On the last GE. I also wrote a line. If you're really breaking down, don't rush into decisions. Find a trusted adult to accompany you. That was the most carefully written sentence I put down while organizing my materials. Because I know that failing the college entrance exam can indeed be heartbreaking. I never wished for anyone to be unable to move on. Not even Su Man. But that doesn't mean my things can be taken by Liang Su and turned into proof of his thoughtfulness toward her. I saved another copy of the file. Then I sent a message to teacher Chen Ziyuan. Teacher, would it be convenient to ask you about the application preferences again this afternoon? Also, I'd like to confirm if someone forwards the materials I've compiled without permission, what would be the appropriate way to handle it? Teacher Chen was probably busy and only replied half an hour later. You can ask about the application preferences anytime. As for the materials, if they involve personal effort, you can first keep the original files and time records. Don't get into emotional arguments. First, keep the evidence safe. I took a deep breath as I read the line. Don't get into emotional arguments. Then I saved all the original documents, chat records, and screenshots of the Moments posts into a new folder. Folder name: Boundaries. The moment it was created, a certain part of my heart suddenly settled. In the past, I always felt that if you liked someone, you shouldn't keep score. If he needed, I would give. He speaks, and I help. He turns away, and I wait. But it turns out that if you don't set boundaries for too long, others really start to think you have none. In the evening, my sister Wan Qinghe came back. She works in another city and originally said she wouldn't be free to come back and help me with my college applications for a few days. But then my mom said, Xinghe's scores are pretty good. But she seems a bit unhappy, and she bought a ticket for the next high-speed train. When she walked in, I was in the living room with my parents, looking at the major group codes. My sister set her suitcase down at the entrance and came over to ruffle my hair first. Why does our top-scoring student look so pale? My nose tingled, and I almost burst into tears. But I held it back. My sister looked at me for a moment, didn't ask further, and just placed the milk tea from her bag on the table. Here you go. Half sugar, no ice. I said quietly. I don't really feel like having something sweet right now. My sister raised an eyebrow. Perfect. I'll have some then. With that, she actually stuck in a straw and took a big sip. I was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help but laugh. The atmosphere at home finally eased up a bit. After dinner, Mom and Dad continued studying the college application choices in the living room. My sister knocked on my door. Want to go for a walk? We went downstairs to the neighborhood. The summer night was sultry, and the gardenias by the flower bed were in full bloom. My sister and I walked slowly around the neighborhood. She wasn't in a hurry to ask me about Liang Su, nor was she eager to persuade me. By the third lap, I finally spoke up. Sis, if someone isn't a bad person, but just never chooses you when it really matters, should you still keep your distance? My sister slowed her pace. She glanced at me. Liang Su. I didn't say anything. She understood. Her sister sighed. What did he do? I briefly recounted the events of the score-checking night. Su Man, the dinner party, and the documents. When she heard the line, "You've always been steady. You don't need me." My sister's face completely turned cold. That was really harsh. I said softly. What he said wasn't wrong. I really can look things up and fill out my own college application. Being able to do it yourself and being left behind are two different things. My sister stopped under the streetlight and looked at me. Xinghe. You've been like this since you were little. Others praise you for being sensible. So you really end up carrying everything on your own. But being sensible isn't meant to make things easier for others. My eyes grew hot. But we've known each other for too long. Knowing each other for too long only means he's been in your past for a long time. My sister said. It doesn't mean he has the right to decide your future. I lowered my head and saw the streetlight stretching the shadows of both of us far and long. Sometimes I wonder, if I really go to Linjiang, would that make me seem heartless? The older sister let out a laugh. Going to the school you want, how is that heartless? But we agreed to stay local. Did you both agree? Or did he decide for you? I froze. My sister didn't urge me. She simply kept walking alongside me. There was a convenience store at the entrance of the neighborhood. With a cold drink promotion sticker on the glass door. I suddenly remembered the hot milk in Su Man's moments from last night. I remembered the pharmacy bag Liang Su was carrying at the dinner table today. I remembered him saying, over and over again, that Su Man was more urgent. That Su Man needed it more. I asked my sister, if it weren't for Liang Su, would I have wanted to go to Linjiang long ago? My sister looked at me. You shouldn't be asking me that question. I was silent for a long time. Then he said, yes. The sound wasn't loud. But this time, I didn't hesitate. My sister smiled. Then put yourself back as your first choice. At 10 in the evening, Liang Su called. I stared at the screen and didn't answer. He called a second time. Third, my sister was sitting on the carpet in my room, helping me look at photos of the dormitories at Linjiang University. Hearing my phone ring continuously, she looked up and asked, not going to answer it? I shook my head. I don't want to take it. She nodded and continued looking at the computer. Then don't take it. The phone finally fell silent. After a while, Liang Su sent a message. I'm downstairs at your place. Come down. Let's talk. You can't be so hasty about the college application. The elder sister glanced at it. Her brows slightly raised. He sure knows how to pick his timing. I stared at those 3 messages. If it were before, I would have gone downstairs immediately. Afraid of making him wait too long. Afraid of making him angry. Afraid that he might think I'm deliberately ignoring him. But now I sit here, not moving an inch. Liang Su sends another message. Wan Xinghe. Don't make me come up there to find you. I held my phone. My heartbeat quickening slightly. My sister reached over, took my phone, and glanced at it. Does he know that uncle and auntie are home? They know. Then he wouldn't dare come up. Give me back my phone. Sis. He's just used to going down whenever you call. I stared at the screen and suddenly felt that she was right. Liang Su wasn't certain he could come back up. He was certain I would go down. I typed slowly. Not today. Liang Su replied almost instantly. What exactly are you making a fuss about? Is it because of Su Man? How many times have I told you? I'm just helping her. I closed my eyes. Then reply. It's not because of her. Liang Su. Then why? I stared at the chat box, my fingers pausing for a long time. In the end, I only sent one sentence. Because of you. There was no reply from downstairs for a long time. 10 minutes later, Mom knocked and came in. Is Xiaoxiu downstairs? I nodded. Mom held a glass of milk in her hand. Her expression very calm. Do you want to see him? I shook my head. No. Then we won't. She placed the milk by my desk. Your dad wanted to go downstairs just now. But I stopped him. Your own matters. You decide for yourself. We won't argue for you. But we're on your side. My throat tightened. Mom. She patted my head. The same goes for the volunteer application. After the door closed, I sat at my desk for a long time without moving. On the computer screen, the admissions page of Linjiang University was still lit. Below the program introduction, there is a campus photo. A very wide road, lined with tall plane trees. Sunlight filters through the gaps in the leaves. As students walk by in 2s and 3s, That is a city I have never been to. It is also a future where Liang-su hasn't jumped to conclusions on my behalf. Her phone lit up again. Liang-su. You weren't like this before. I stared at those words. And a sudden calm settled over me. I wasn't like this before. Yes. The old me would have gone downstairs. Would have explained. Would have softened. Would have pushed my application form in front of him and said, "Take a look for me." But now, I opened the draft application form for college preferences. In the first column, I slowly type, Linjiang University. After typing the 4 characters for Linjiang University, I don't immediately fill in the next line. The cursor on the volunteer form blinks, as if urging me to continue. I stare at that line of text, but my heart is calmer than I expected. It's not the relief that comes after a fit of pique, nor is it the thrill of finally getting back at someone. It feels more like walking a long night road and suddenly seeing a lamp that truly belongs to you. My sister leaned beside me, still holding a tablet in her hand. She glanced at the screen and asked, "Want to keep queuing for the major?" I nodded. Yes. My voice was a little hoarse. She opened the materials sent by teacher Chen Ziyuan in the afternoon and went through them item by item with me. Linjiang University's Intelligent Medical Engineering program was placed as the first choice. Biomedical Engineering at the SAM-E school is ranked second. The third major is Medical Information Engineering. After that, Jiangbei Medical University, Nanchang University of Technology, and the local A University are listed. None of these choices were made casually. Admission plans. The lowest rankings in the past 3 years. The risk of major adjustments. City distance. Tuition and accommodation. And future graduate study directions all listed right beside. My sister was even more serious about it than I was. As she flipped through the materials, she said, "Whether to accept adjustments within this major group needs to be clarified. Don't just focus on the school. A bad major can be troublesome too." I hummed in acknowledgement and jotted it down on the paper. If Liang-su were here, he would probably say I was being too troublesome. He had said it many times. Xinghe. Don't overthink things so much. Overthinking will only wear you out. But now I realize that life is meant to be thought through in detail. At least when the one making the decisions is yourself. At 11:30 at night, the noise downstairs finally died down. Liang-su didn't send any more messages. My mom came in with a late-night snack and said Liang-su had left. My sister had just finished eating an apple and casually asked, "Did he strike a dramatic pose before leaving?" Mom laughed at her remark and gave her a gentle pat. "Stop joking around." I smiled too, but after laughing, there was still an emptiness in my heart. It wasn't regret. It was just the sudden realization that he really wouldn't wait for me forever. And that he would leave too. I used to think Liang-su couldn't live without me, but in truth, I was the one who had stayed too long. The next morning, teacher Chen Ziyuan asked me to revise the draft of my college application online. I sent over the version I had organized the night before, and within a few minutes, he called me on voice. Good thinking. Much clearer than yesterday. I sat at my desk, holding a pen. Teacher. Wouldn't ranking Linjiang University as my first choice be too risky? Teacher Chen let out a laugh. Adventure and recklessness are not the same thing. Your ranking is high enough to take a bold step, and there are stable and safe options behind it. This plan has a gradient. It's not a gamble. I felt a little more at ease. He added, but you need to think it through. Linjiang is indeed far from home. It's not that you can't go. But you have to be sure this is what you truly want. I look out the window. The camphor tree at the entrance of the downstairs neighborhood swayed in the wind. Last night, Liang-su stood right there. Teacher. I've made up my mind. Teacher Chen paused for a moment. That's good. Volunteering is your life choice. Not something to prove to anyone. My hand gripping the pen tightened. He seemed to see through everything, yet didn't call out a thing. Also, about the forwarded materials you asked about yesterday, have you dealt with it? I glanced at the boundaries folder on my computer desktop. Evidence saved. If the other party only vaguely displayed it on their moments without causing greater impact. You can hold off on a public confrontation for now, but you need to know. Next time you don't want to give. You don't have to. I softly hummed in acknowledgement. Was it hard to say no before? I was stunned. Teacher Chen's voice was still gentle. Many students are like this. The more capable you are, the more others assume you should help. But the college entrance exam is over. Your life is not a public resource for the class. My nose tingled with emotion. Teacher Ming never mentioned Liang Su. Yet every word felt like a wake-up call to me. After hanging up the call, I checked my draft of college application choices once more. Then I showed it to my mom and dad. Dad, wearing his glasses, was circling and drawing on the paper with a pencil. Is Jiangbei Medical University a solid choice? What does Teacher Chen say? I repeated the teacher's words. Dad nodded. Then let's go with the professional advice. I was a little surprised. Dad, don't you think Linjiang is too far? Dad was silent for a moment. It's definitely far. After he finished speaking, he glanced at me again. But you can't just stay within our sight forever just because your mother and I can't bear to let you go. Mom sat nearby, her eyes reddening again. Of course I can't bear to let you go. But just because I can't bear it doesn't mean I should stop you from going to a good place. I lowered my head, my heart aching with a deep, swelling bitterness. So even those who truly love me can also feel reluctant to let go. But they won't use that reluctance to trap me. At noon, Liang Su finally sent another message. This is not an interrogation. It's a photo. In the photo is a takeout container from the kanji shop downstairs from my place. Liang Su, you didn't eat much yesterday, so I bought your favorite pumpkin kanji. Liang Su, come down and get it. I stared at that photo, and suddenly many scenes flashed through my mind. In the winter of my sophomore year of high school, when I had a fever, he also bought me pumpkin porridge. Back then, he stood at my doorstep, his ears red from the cold, and said awkwardly, "Don't be moved. It's on the way." I was genuinely moved for a long time that day. I couldn't even bring myself to throw away that plastic spoon. But at this moment, I only feel exhausted. I replied, "No need." Liang Su, still angry. I didn't reply. He sent another message. "I stood there for so long yesterday, and you didn't even show up. Xinghe, you weren't this ruthless before." I stared at the word ruthless for a long time. Not going downstairs, not accepting the porridge, and not receiving belated kindness, that's what it means to be ruthless. Then what was it when he hung up on me on the night of the exam results? I typed, "I'm looking at college application materials. No time. Liang Su. I came here specifically for the volunteer work. Liang Su, don't fill it in randomly on your own." I was a bit hasty with my words yesterday. But I did it for your own good. I didn't reply. Liang Su's messages kept popping up one after another. "I've already talked to Su Man and told her to contact me less. Is this okay? There's really nothing between her and me. Don't mix up your college application with her. Wan Xinghe, can you be a little more mature? Be more mature. Be a little more sensible. Be a little more generous. Be a little more steady." I turned off my phone and continued checking the professional codes. At 3:00 p.m., the official volunteer application system opens. Mom, Dad, and my sister are all in the living room. The computer is set up on the dining table, with a printed draft form, ID card, admission ticket, pencil, eraser, and a glass of warm water placed beside it. The sense of ritual is as heavy as on the day of the college entrance exam. My sister joked. "Anyone who didn't know would think you're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register today." My mom glared at her. "Don't talk nonsense." I sat down at the computer and entered my account and password. The system logged in smoothly. On the left side of the page were the application batch. Yes. And on the right was a blank form. The first column was the institution code. I entered the numbers one by one according to the draft form. Linjiang University. Major 1. Intelligent Medical Engineering. Major 2. Biomedical Engineering. Major 3. Medical Information Engineering. Every time I fill in a field, I double-check it. Dad stood behind me, murmuring the code under his breath. As if guiding me, Mom held my admission ticket, her palms sweating. My sister leaned against the refrigerator, looking lazy. But her eyes were fixed on the screen. When she was filling in the third school, her phone rang again. It was Liang-Su calling. I didn't answer. He called again. The phone's vibration buzzed across the dining table. Dad frowned. Maybe turn it off. I shook my head. No need. I don't want to look like I'm avoiding him because of Liang-Su. I flip my phone over and keep filling in the form. When I reached the last safety school option, Liang-Su's call stopped. Right after, he sent a message. The elder sister glanced and read aloud. He said he's at the door. Mom was stunned. The entrance of the neighborhood. My sister pushed her phone a little closer to me. Liang-Su. I'm at your doorstep. Liang-Su. If you don't come out soon. I'm coming up. Dad's face instantly darkened. What does he mean? I stared at the screen. My heartbeat quickened a little. Unavoidably. It wasn't that I was afraid Liang-Su would actually come up. It's just that the reactions I've developed over many years are too hard to change. Whenever he gets angry, whenever he waits for me, whenever he says he wants to see me, I instinctively want to soothe him. But now, the volunteer system is still stuck on the confirmation page. It clearly lists the life I have chosen anew. I take a deep breath and pick up my phone. Liang-Su sent again. Xinghe. Stop messing around. We agreed to stay local together. You can't punish me like this just because I wasn't there with you on the day the scores were released. I looked at that sentence and suddenly felt like laughing. Punish him. So filling out my own college application was a way to punish him. So in his eyes, my future was just another way of revolving around him. I replied. Liang-Su, this is my aspiration. He quickly replied. But what about our future? Our future, if it were the past. I would probably have softened at those 5 words. Because he finally used we. But now I just want to ask, when he said we, did he truly include me in it? I didn't reply again. Pushed the phone aside and looked back at the computer. There are 2 buttons at the bottom of the page. Save. Submit. Mom asked softly. Xinghe, have you made up your mind? I looked at the first choice column. The words Linjiang University lay quietly there, as if it had been waiting for me for a long time. I've made up my mind. I clicked save. The system prompted that the save was successful. Then I clicked submit. A confirmation dialog popped up on the page. Once submitted, please double-check carefully. I read it word by word. That's right. Liang-Su called again. The screen lit up. His name flashing over and over. I didn't look. Move the mouse over the confirm button. The moment my finger pressed down, I heard my heart thud heavily. Submission successful. The page refreshed. My application was officially locked. The living room was silent for a few seconds. Then my sister was the first to applaud. Congratulations. Xinghe, for filling yourself back into your first choice. Mom laughed and then cried. Dad pretended to stay calm and picked up the water glass to drink, but ended up holding it upside down. I looked at the screen and suddenly laughed too. As I laughed, tears began to fall. It wasn't from grievance. It was like a breath held for a long time, finally let out. The phone finally fell silent. After a while, the doorbell rang. This time, the entire living room fell quiet. Dad put down his water glass and stood up to go open the door. I stood up. I'll go. Mom looked at me with concern. I gave her a smile. Nothing. When the door opened, Liang-Su stood outside. He was still holding the now cold pumpkin porridge in his hand. The motion sensor light in the hallway was on, casting a pale glow on his face. Seeing me, he seemed to finally let out a sigh of relief, but quickly furrowed his brows. Why aren't you answering the phone? I didn't answer. He glanced into the room. Did you fill it out? I did. His hands suddenly tightened. The plastic bag let out a sharp, grating sound. What did you fill in? I look at him. Linjiang University. Liang-Su's face completely changed. Xinghe, are you crazy? From inside the room came father's voice, barely suppressing his anger. Liang-Su, watch your words. Liang-Su seemed to just then realize that my parents were both there. He forcibly suppressed his emotions. But his voice was still taut. Uncle. That's not what I meant. I just think she was too impulsive. How could she not discuss something as important as her college application with me? My father stood behind me. She has discussed it with her parents and also with the teacher. Liang Shui was at a loss for words. He looked at me, and for the first time, there was panic in his eyes. What about me? I asked calmly. Who are you? When these 3 words fell, Liang Su felt as if someone had pressed the pause button on him. His lips moved, but he didn't immediately give an answer. The corridor was eerily quiet. I look at him. This was actually not a very difficult question to answer. Friends. Childhood friends. Neighbors. Classmates. Even if he had said he liked someone, I might have admitted it, at least then it wouldn't have been just my own illusion. But Liang Su remained silent. Suddenly, I understood completely. He doesn't not know how to define us. He just wants to enjoy that position without bearing the weight of that answer. After a long pause, Liang Su finally spoke. We grew up together. Do you really have to speak so coldly? I nodded. So you do know what it means to be distant. His face turned ugly. I continued. On the night of the exam results, when you made me check them myself, you were very distant. At the dinner table, when you told me to stay local without even looking at my ranking, you were very distant. You forwarded the materials I organized to Su Man and let her post them on Moments to receive others' thanks. But it was still very distant. Liang Su said urgently. I told you. That was just a favor. Did you ask me, though? He paused. I looked at him and said slowly, word by word. You didn't. Because you thought I wouldn't mind. Because you thought I was understanding. Because you think I'll always wait for you to finish explaining. And then find an excuse for you. Liang Su's eyes slowly reddened. This was the first time I had seen him make such an expression. Panic, confusion, and a hint of being at a loss. But there was no sense of relief in my heart as I had imagined. Only a deep, profound exhaustion. Liang Su said in a low voice. Xinghe. That night when I checked my scores, I really didn't mean to not be with you. Su Man was in such a bad state at the time, I was afraid something might happen to her. You've always been stronger than her. So I thought. You think I don't need it? He stopped. I finished the sentence for him. You think because I did well on the exam, I don't need company. You think because I don't cry, I'm not upset. You think that just because I'm not making a scene, you can keep putting me off. Liang Su's face gradually turned pale. I looked at the pumpkin porridge in his hand. The bag's opening loosened a bit. The takeout container inside tilted to one side, and a little soup spilled out, dampening the plastic bag. I used to feel sorry for him making this trip. I would take it and say thank you. Now I just think, this bowl of porridge came too late. Too late. I've already eaten. My application has already been submitted. Too late. I no longer need to use it to prove that he actually still cares about me. Liang Su said in a hoarse voice. Can I still change my application? I shook my head. The system has submitted. Then apply for a revision. He said immediately. There must be a way. Xinghe, listen to me this time. Let's discuss it properly. I look at him. Liang Su. I'm not here to inform you of the outcome of the discussion. His gaze froze. I said. I'm telling you. I've already made up my mind. Behind him, his sister had approached at some point without him noticing. She leaned against the doorframe. Her tone languid. Classmate, do you understand? It's already been submitted. Parents agreed. Teacher recommended. And I volunteered. If you still try to stop me, that would be a bit rude. Liang Su looked at her, as if wanting to say something, but held back out of respect for the elders present. My mom also walked to the door. Unlike my sister, she didn't directly confront him. She just said gently, Xiao Su, Xinghe is tired today. You should go back first. Liang Su's hand holding the porridge bag dropped down. He looked at me, as if finally realizing that this door would not open for him today. Are you really going that far away? I nodded. He asked. Just because of Su Man. I closed my eyes. This time, I didn't avoid it anymore. It's not because of her. Liang Su looked at me. I said, "It's because of you." The sound-activated light in the hallway went out for a moment. Soon, it lit up again because of a door closing somewhere. The light and shadow fell on Liang Su's face, making him look somewhat disheveled. He murmured, "I don't understand." I wasn't really surprised at all. Of course he doesn't understand. Because in his world, I've always been there. Like the kanji shop downstairs. Like the regular dinners between our two families. Like the first person he thinks to contact when he needs information. Like a road that, no matter how far it winds, always leads back to him. But I am not a road. Nor am I a fixed fixture in his life. I only used to like him too much. Which is why I ended up living that way. You'll understand later. I whispered softly. Then the door closed. The moment the door shut, all the sounds from outside were cut off. Liang Su did not ring the doorbell again. I stood in the hallway, my back pressed against the door, and heard no footsteps in the stairwell for a long time. He hadn't left yet. This realization made my chest feel tight. It's not that I'm soft-hearted. It's that habitual reluctance, once again rising from deep within me. In the past, when Liang Su waited for me, I was always afraid of making him wait too long. Afraid he'd be hungry. Afraid he'd be cold. Afraid he'd be angry. Afraid he'd think I didn't care. But now, I suddenly realize that what I have always feared is his feelings. Few people ever ask if I feel hurt. My sister walked over and waved her hand in front of my eyes. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "It's okay." She glanced at the door. "Is he still here?" I nodded. My sister raised an eyebrow. "If you're worried about him, you can ask my dad to go down and talk to him." Dad immediately chimed in from the living room. "I'll go right now." "No need." I held the door handle. "Let him go on his own." Just like the night I checked my exam results. I came through it alone too. I didn't say that out loud. Half an hour later, a very faint sound of footsteps finally came from the hallway. One step. Then another, gradually fading away. I returned to the dining table and saw that the computer screen still displayed the page showing the successful submission of my volunteer application. Those few words were very ordinary. There were no fireworks effects, nor any soundtrack for a turning point in life. But I stared at them for a long time, until the system automatically logged out. Starting from the second day, my life suddenly became quiet. Liang Su didn't call again, nor did he come downstairs to my place anymore. He just sent 1 or 2 messages every day. On the first day, he said, "I was in a bad mood yesterday, but Xinghe, I really have your best interests at heart." On the second day, he said, "I asked the senior. The academic pressure at Linjiang University is really heavy. You've never been in great health. What will you do if no one takes care of you over there?" On the third day, he sent a photo of the local University A campus. "Actually, this place is pretty good too. Didn't we say before that we would come here together to see the ginkgo trees?" I didn't even reply. It wasn't intentional Cold War. I just really had nothing to say. Every time he sends a message, it feels like a reminder that many of our past promises were never a two-way journey, but rather boundaries he had already drawn for me. I stayed within those boundaries for so long that when I first stepped out, even the wind felt unfamiliar. Su Man, on the other hand, quickly posted another update on her moments. This time, she didn't mention Liang Su, only posted a photo of a desk. On the desk were the promotional brochures from the Language Repetition Institution, along with the materials I had organized. Caption: "Starting over is hard, but I will try my best." Some people comforted her in the comments, while others asked why Liang Su didn't accompany her to the consultation. Su Man didn't reply. I scrolled past, without liking or commenting. Whether she was sad or whether Liang Su was with her no longer had anything to do with me. Instead, Zhao Jia privately messaged me, "Xinghe, about that document, aren't you going to explain it clearly?" I thought for a moment and replied to her, "Not for now, Zhao Jia, but everyone thinks it was Liang Su who helped her organize it." I looked at my phone screen, and surprisingly, I felt no major ripples in my heart. "It's fine." Zhao Jia sent a question mark. I type slowly. There won't be a next time anymore. That's the real point. What was taken from me in the past, I may not be able to reclaim piece by piece. From now on, I can choose not to give. During the time before the admission results came out, I kept myself very busy. In the mornings, I studied the map of the riverside city with my sister. In the afternoons, I learned to cook a few simple dishes with my mom. In the evening, I went for a walk with my dad outside the neighborhood. Listening to him repeatedly remind me to stay safe while I'm away from home. His reminders were clumsy. Make several copies of your ID. Don't keep all your bank cards in the same place. Don't walk down small alleys alone at night. Your phone battery shouldn't drop below 30. I find him too nagging. He glared at me. When something really goes wrong, you'll realize how wise your dad is. Mom laughed on the side. My sister undercut him. Dad, when you went to college in another city when you were young, didn't you lose your living expenses in the first week? Dad's face darkened. How is that the same? I was targeted by a thief. I couldn't stop laughing. After laughing, I felt like crying. Leaving doesn't mean being left behind. It can also mean heading into the distance. Surrounded by the worries and blessings of many, the day the admission results were released, the weather was scorching hot, even more stifling than the night of checking the scores. At 2:00 p.m., the system opened. I sat in front of the computer, with my parents and sister all present. This scene was very similar to the day we filled out the college application, but this time, I wasn't so nervous that my hands were shaking. When entering the candidate number, the mother was even more nervous on the side. Maybe your dad should do it. Dad immediately waved his hand. I won't do it. What if my hand shakes? My sister sneered. It's not like the system will roll back just because you clicked something wrong. I laughed at her remark and clicked query. The page loaded for a moment. It was short. It also felt very long. The next second, the admission information popped up. Institution: Linjiang University. Major: Intelligent Medical Engineering. I stared at that line of text, suddenly unable to say a single word. Mom started crying first. Dad leaned in to read it 3 times, muttering over and over, "Accepted. Really accepted." My sister hugged me tightly. "Wan Xinghe, you're going to Linjiang. I'm going to Linjiang." That place I secretly looked up in my sophomore year of high school but never dared to speak out loud. That place Liang Su said was too far, unsuitable, and unnecessary to go to. That place that had been quietly waiting for me at the last line of my document for 2 years. I could finally go. At that moment, my phone vibrated. It's Liang Su. Liang Su, have the admission results come out? I didn't reply. My sister leaned over to take a look. He still doesn't know. I shook my head. I don't know. My sister asked. Do you want to tell him? I stared at the admission notice on the screen. After a while, I took a screenshot and sent it to teacher Chen Ziyuan. Then I sent it to Zhao Jia. Finally, I sent it to the small group that only includes my parents and sister. I didn't send it to Liang Su. I thought he would at least wait for my reply. But half an hour later, he came straight to my house. This time, he didn't ring the doorbell. It was Aunt Liang who called, saying she wanted to come up and congratulate me. Mom glanced at me while answering the phone. I nodded, since the admission results were already out. There were many things that had to be faced. When the 3 members of the Liang family entered, the atmosphere was even more awkward than last time. Uncle Liang was carrying fruit in his hands, and Aunt Liang was holding a bouquet of flowers. Liang Su stood behind them, with faint dark circles under his eyes. He looked a bit thinner, but I only glanced at him before looking away. Aunt Liang smiled as soon as she entered the door. Xinghe, congratulations. Linjiang University. What a great school. Auntie knew you'd go far. She handed me the flowers. The flowers were sunflowers. They were beautiful. I took it and said thank you. Uncle Liang also praised me a few times. Only Liang Su remained silent the whole time, until everyone sat down and my mother poured them tea. Aunt Liang asked, as if casually, I've also recorded the small talk. Local University A. It's not the most popular major. But it's decent and close to home. My hand holding the cup paused slightly. Local University A. Not the major he had previously sworn he wanted to go to. It wasn't the trump card he mentioned when he tried to persuade me to stay local. Liang Su said in a low voice. Mom. Aunt Liang then realized something and quickly corrected herself. Of course. The main thing is Xinghe's happy occasion today. Let's not talk about anything else. I remained silent. But Liang Su suddenly looked at me. Are you satisfied now? The air in the living room instantly turned cold. Uncle Liang frowned. Xiao Su. How are you talking? Liang Su seemed to have held back for a long time. He looked at me. His eyes red. Wan Xinghe. You really haven't replied to a single message. I ask you about your college applications every day. About your admission results. And you never say a word. Have you already decided to abandon me? Abandon him. Those 3 words, spoken from his mouth, carried a ridiculous sense of grievance. As if he was the one who had been left behind all along. I put down my cup. Liang Su. Today is the day I got admitted. He froze. I look at him. If you're here to genuinely congratulate me, I thank you. If not, you can leave now. Liang Su's face turned pale. Auntie Liang quickly pulled him. Xiao Su. You've been in a bad mood these past few days. Don't say things recklessly. But Liang Su did not sit down. He stared at me intently. I'm in a bad mood. Don't you all know why I'm in a bad mood? After he said that, he suddenly let out a laugh. Everyone thinks she did well on the exam, got into a good school, and deserves congratulations. But what about me? I grew up with her since we were kids. We promised to stay local together. She went to Linjiang without a word. And I was the last to know. I said calmly, "You're not the last." He froze. I said, "I didn't tell you." Liang Su's expression completely froze. This was even crueler than the last one. The last one, at least, was still on the list. Not being told meant being removed from the list from the very beginning. Uncle Liang said in a deep voice. Xiao Su. That's enough. Liang Su acted as if he couldn't hear. Why? He asked me. Just because I accompanied Su Man on the day I checked my scores. I was already a bit tired. He had asked this question over and over again. I had also repeated over and over that it wasn't because of Su Man. But he seemed willing to believe only this one reason. Because only then could he attribute my leaving to jealousy. Attribute it to impulsiveness. Attribute it to a little temper that he could still win back with just a bit of coaxing. I look at him. Liang Su. Do you really not know why? His lips tightened. I said. You've been urging me to stay local. Not because I'm suited for university here. Nor because Linjiang is too far. It's because you yourself don't want me to leave. Liang Su's eyes flickered. Very quiet. But I saw it. Even at this point, I still hadn't figured out the whole truth. Until Aunt Liang suddenly spoke. Xinghe. Xiaoxiu also can't bear to part with you. He didn't perform well this time and knows he can't go to a school too far away. Which already makes him feel terrible. You two have been so close since childhood. So of course he hopes you'll stay local. The living room fell silent. Liang Su abruptly turned to look at his mother. Mom. Aunt Liang was startled by his shout. As if she finally realized she had let something slip. My heart slowly sank. So that's how it is. Liang Su had known all along. After checking his scores, he knew he couldn't get into a better school. So he advised me to play it safe. He urged me not to apply to Linjiang. He advised me to stay local. Saying that it's unsafe for a girl to be alone. Saying that my personality isn't suited for distant places. Saying that the local University A is also very good. Those words that sound like concern are all rooted in his fear. He's afraid that I might actually do too well in the exams. Afraid that I will go too far away. Afraid that I would go somewhere he couldn't reach. I suddenly remembered. The night of the exam results. When he finally asked me my score. I only replied with "It's okay." If I had sent him my results back then, would he have been happy for me? Or would he have started persuading me to stay even earlier? Liang Su's face turned pale. It's not like that. His voice was very low. Xinghe. It's not what you think. I look at him. What is that? Liang Su opened his mouth. This time, he couldn't immediately come up with the familiar explanation. Uncle Liang's face turned grim. Aunt Liang's eyes reddened, as if she wanted to speak up for her son but didn't know how to. My mother held my hand. Her hands were warm. I didn't dodge. I just looked at Liang Su. And suddenly felt the last trace of hesitation in my heart dissipate. So I hadn't misunderstood him after all. It's not that sensitive. Nor is it because Su Man appeared that I started to think badly of this relationship. It was already broken. It broke because he knew I could fly. Yet he hoped I wouldn't. The problem is that he clearly never saw my true intentions. Yet he tried to package his own unwillingness as my security. The problem is that he would rather have me go somewhere lower, closer, and more convenient for his peace of mind, than see me head toward a future that truly belongs to me. Liang Su's eyes grew even redder. I'm just afraid that once you leave, we'll really drift apart. His voice was hoarse. Xinghe, I never meant to harm you. I nodded. I know. He clung to that sliver of hope. Immediately looking at me, I continued. But you want to keep me, even if the price of keeping me is making me give up a better choice. Liang Su froze. I said softly, it's not much better than harming me. After these words fell, he seemed to have all his strength drained away. It was a long while before he spoke in a low voice. Then why didn't you tell me sooner that you really wanted to go to Linjiang? I suddenly smiled. Very quiet. I told you, during the summer vacation of my sophomore year of high school. I excitedly showed him the official website of Linjiang University. When filling out mock college applications in my senior year, I also mentioned intelligent medical engineering once. At the score-checking dinner, I asked him if he knew what major I wanted to study. I gave him many chances, but he never really listened. Liang Su clearly remembered as well. His face gradually turned pale. I thought. You thought I was just casually looking. I finished the sentence for him. You thought that as long as you said local university A was great, I would listen. You think I'll wait for you forever? I paused for a moment. Liang Su. I used to. A glimmer of light flickered in his eyes. But I didn't let that light linger for long. But not anymore. No one spoke in the living room. The cicadas outside the window chirped louder and louder. It was very noisy, yet it made the room feel even quieter. Uncle Liang final. Ly stood up. His voice was deep. Let's head back for today. Auntie Liang wanted to say more, but after he shot her a glance, she had no choice but to swallow her words. Before leaving, she took my hand, her eyes red-rimmed, and said, Xinghe, I'm truly happy for you. Some of the jokes we adults made before didn't take them to heart. Take good care of yourself when you go to Linjiang. I nodded. Thank you, Auntie. Liang Su stood at the door, not moving. Uncle Liang called out to him. Let's go. He acted as if he hadn't heard, just staring at me. Xinghe. I looked up. Can I still see you off? I didn't answer immediately. I've imagined this scene many times before. Liang Su sending me off to college. He carries my luggage, helps me find my dorm, and buys me my first meal in the cafeteria. He would stand at the school gate, pretending to be nonchalant, and say, study hard, and don't miss me too much. At that moment, I would probably laugh and call him narcissistic. Then, after turning around and walking through the school gate, I would secretly get teary-eyed. But now, that image is like an old photograph soaked in water. The outline is still there, yet the colors have already blurred. I said, no need. Liang Su's Adam's apple moved. I'll see you to the station. No need. My tone was very calm. My family will see me off. He looked at me, as if he still wanted to argue, but I didn't give him a chance to continue. Liang Su. I'm going to Linjiang. I don't need you to come with me. After the door closed, Mom placed the bouquet of sunflowers into the vase. The flowers are very bright, golden and radiant, placed by the living room window, like a small patch of sunlight. My sister walked over and nudged me with her shoulder. Feeling good? I thought for a moment. No. She was a little surprised. I looked at the bouquet of flowers. It just feels like it's finally over. My sister was silent for a few seconds. Then reached out and ruffled my hair. It's all so good to end it. It is good. Some relationships don't have to end in a catastrophic way. They can also be like a long rain. It was so cold when it was snowing that people shivered. When it stopped, I realized it was already dawn. The preparations before the start of school became busy. My mom and I went to buy a suitcase together. Dad opened a new bank card for me. My sister made me a long list. From a sun umbrella to a power adapter. From common medicines to curtain hooks. As if she wanted to stuff half the house into my suitcase. I was too busy to think about Liang-Su anymore. Only occasionally did I hear news about him from mutual friends. Liang-Su did not contact Su-Man again. Su-Man went to a cram school for consultation and later posted a line on her Ments. Some people say they'll be there for you. But they're just saying it. Someone asked below if it was Liang-Su. She didn't reply. When I saw it, I paused for just a second before swiping away. This time, I didn't even feel a sense of satisfaction. Because that was already a matter between them. It has nothing to do with me. The night before departure, I received a very long message from Liang-Su. So long that I had to swipe down the phone screen several times without reaching the end. He said he had been thinking a lot during this time. He said he had indeed gotten too used to having me around. He said he was wrong on the day the results were released. He said he shouldn't have forwarded the materials I organized to Su-Man. He said it was only when he saw the admission notice from Linjiang University that he truly realized I wasn't just speaking out of anger. Finally, he said, "Xinghe, I just never thought you would actually leave." I stared at that sentence for a long time without moving. Then I replied with the longest sentence I had written in a while. "Liang-Su, I didn't leave suddenly. Every time you made me wait. Every time you made me give in. Every time you decided for me, you pushed me one step further away. Now I've just finally reached the door." After sending the message, he didn't reply immediately. After a long while, he replied, "Sorry." I stared at those 3 words. And my eyes stung a little. A belated apology, it turns out, is not entirely without weight. But it can no longer change anything. I replied, "Understood." Then I turned off my phone and continued packing. The next morning, we went to the high-speed rail station. Linjiang was far away. The high-speed train takes over 8 hours. When Dad put my suitcase into the trunk, he repeatedly checked whether I had brought my ID card and admission letter. Mom said he was like a broken record. My sister chimed in with a jab. "Good thing Xinghe isn't taking a plane. Or Dad would probably check the pilot's license too." Dad glared at her. "Can you say something more auspicious?" I smiled and got into the car. As the car drove out of the neighborhood, I instinctively glanced out the window. The kanji shop at the entrance of the neighborhood was already open. Steam was rising from the window. Someone was standing by the camphor tree downstairs. Liang-Su. He was wearing a white t-shirt and holding a paper bag in his hand. Through the car window, he saw me. I saw him too. The car slowed down. Dad held the steering wheel and asked, "Should we stop?" I fell silent for a moment. "Let's stop for a moment." Dad pulled the car over. I pushed open the door and got out. Liang-Su stood under the tree, as if he had been waiting for a long time. The paper bag in his hand was slightly crumpled from his grip. He looked at me, his eyes still red. But he didn't question me like last time. He just handed me the paper bag. "Drink it on the way." I looked down. Inside was a bottle of warm milk. It looks very similar to the bottle in Su-Man's Moments. It's also a brand I used to like. On the day the scores were released, he bought it for Su-Man. On the day of the dinner party, he accompanied Su-Man to buy medicine. On the day of volunteering, he brought me a bowl of cold pumpkin porridge. Now, just as I was about to leave, he finally handed me a bottle of warm milk. I didn't answer. Liang-Su's hand froze in midair. His voice was soft. "Xinghe, I know it's late." I looked at the bottle of milk. The bottle was still steaming. If it were the night of the exam results, I probably would have accepted it. At least he still remembers what I like. But now, I no longer need a carton of milk to prove anything. Liang Su. On the day the scores came out, I was actually really scared. His eyes suddenly turned even redder. I continued. I wasn't steady from the very beginning. I was nervous too, afraid of failing the exam. Afraid that all my efforts over the years would come to nothing. I called you because I thought you would be there for me. Liang Su lowered his head. I'm sorry. I shook my head. There's no need to say anything more. He looked up at me. I said, later. I looked it up myself and filled out the application on my own. Now, I can walk on my own too. Liang Su's hand slowly dropped. The paper bag brushed against his leg, making a very soft sound. He asked in a hoarse voice, "What have we been all these years?" This sentence had appeared in my mind many times before. I thought that when I actually heard it, I would be very sad. But at this moment, I was surprisingly calm. I looked at him, thought for a moment, and said, I finally understand that you can't put someone in your first choice just because you're used to them. Liang Su's tears fell. It was the first time I saw him cry. It was very quiet. No sound. Just tears streaming down my cheeks. In the past, I would have panicked. I would have handed him a tissue, asked him what was wrong, and blamed myself for being too harsh. Now, I simply take a pack of tissues from my bag and hand it to him. Take care of yourself. He couldn't speak. I turned around and got back into the car. Just before the car door closed, Liang Su suddenly called out to me, Xinghe. I paused for a moment. He stood under the tree, still holding that bottle of warm milk in his hand. The morning light fell on him, just like many years ago when he stood at the bottom of the teaching building, turning back to call me to hurry up. But I am no longer the person who would trot to catch up with him back then. Liang Su said in a choked voice, when you arrive at Linjiang, could you send me a message? I look at him, then he shook his head. No, you don't need to wait for me to report that I'm safe. Because from now on, my safety no longer needs to be accounted for to him. The car started again. I sat in the back seat without looking back. My phone vibrated at that moment. It was a message from my sister, who was sitting in the passenger seat. Don't look back. I looked up at her. She winked at me through the rearview mirror. Mom whispered beside me, remember to send me a message when you arrive. Dad immediately chimed in. And me too, sister said. And your sister too. I smiled, but tears fell. I lowered my head to reply to the message. Okay, I will move forward properly. Outside the car window, the familiar streets slowly receded. The neighborhood, the porridge shop, the camphor trees, and the person standing under the tree all slowly fade into the distance. Ahead, at the end of the viaduct, sunlight spreads out, very bright, like a road that finally belongs to me.